Want to know which muscle cars from the 70s were the fastest? These cars flew down the quarter mile like no other. Number 15, 1973, Pontiac Firebird, Formula 455 SD. Back in the 1970s, muscle cars were starting to lose their power. New rules for emissions made engines weaker, and gas prices were going up. Car companies began caring more about saving fuel than building fast machines. Most people thought the days of street cars with serious speed were done, but Pontiac did not give up. They made something that shocked everyone, a special version of their Firebird, known as the Super Duty 455. The 1973 Firebird Trans Am SD 455 could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in less than 5.5 seconds. It could also finish the quarter mile in 13.8 seconds. That kind of speed made it one of the fastest muscle cars of the entire decade, even though it does not get much attention today. What made this car different was its engine. The SD 455 was not just a regular big engine. It was carefully built with better parts and more strength inside. It produced 310 horsepower, which was a big deal at a time when most engines were getting weaker. Pontiac worked hard to make sure the engine passed the new emissions tests, and somehow it did. Since it belonged to the regular 455 engine family, it skipped the longer testing process. On February 7, 1973, a test run in California showed what this car could do. Even though it had an automatic transmission and weighed 3,854 pounds, it outran sports cars that were known for speed. Cars like the Chevrolet Corvette 454, Porsche 911, and Jaguar 512 could not beat it. The Firebird SD 455 came to life because a few people at Pontiac believed in it. Engineers like Herb Adams, Tom Nell, and Skip McCulley worked against all the doubts from inside General Motors. They gave the engine better airflow, stronger pistons, and a stronger oil system. Even if not many people talk about it today, the Firebird SD 455 proved that the muscle car dream was not over. In a time when speed was disappearing, Pontiac gave the world one last blast of power. Number 14, 1970, Chevrolet Chevel 454 SS. Back in the early part of the 1970s, muscle cars were roaring louder than ever, and one of the loudest was the 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS 454. This car was more than just muscle. It was a monster built for pure speed. Chevrolet didn't hold anything back when they dropped a massive 454 cubic inch V8 engine into their mid-size Chevelle. This engine, known as the LS6, had solid lifters, a high compression ratio, and one of the highest horsepower ratings ever given to a production car at the time. The numbers were no joke. It delivered around 450 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. That kind of force launched the car from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.1 seconds. It ran the quarter mile in 13.7 seconds at 103 miles per hour. Those figures made it one of the quickest machines you could buy in the showroom during that decade. Even with its weight, the Chevelle SS held its own on the road. The suspension was upgraded, and drivers could feel the control while tearing through corners or cruising on the highway. Inside, the dashboard was redesigned to look cleaner and sportier, matching the powerful vibe of the car. For serious racers, Chevrolet offered a 4-speed manual or a special automatic transmission, and axle ratios went as aggressive as 4.10 to 1 for strong takeoffs. This wasn't just another version of the Chevelle. It came with unique features like the cowl induction hood, which opened at full throttle to let more air into the engine. Fat racing stripes, wide tires, and a mean stance made sure everyone knew this car was built to win. While other brands had their own big engines, the Chevelle SS 454 LS6 was a step ahead. It arrived at the peak of muscle car power, right before rising insurance and new rules started killing the fun. For one bright moment, this Chevrolet was the king of the street, and its thunder still echoes today. Number 13, 1970, Oldsmobile 442W30. The 1970 Oldsmobile 442W30 is a standout in the muscle car world, blending impressive power with thoughtful design. This model marked the peak of Oldsmobile's performance efforts after a few years of testing and refining their engines. The W30 version of the 442 stood out thanks to its 455 cubic inch V8 engine. Unlike the previous models, this engine had a more efficient design, delivering an impressive 370 horsepower. It was an engine built for raw power, with torque that could move mountains and acceleration that rivaled some of the most powerful cars on the road. The 442W30 package wasn't just about power. It was also about getting that power to the ground efficiently. Oldsmobile put special attention into reducing the car's weight by using lighter materials. The hood, for instance, was made of fiberglass instead of steel, saving 18 pounds. Other components, like the intake manifold and the differential carrier, were also made from aluminum, further lowering the car's weight. All these changes helped the car perform better, especially when paired with the performance-calibrated 4-speed manual, or the turbo-hydromatic transmission. In terms of speed, the 442W30 didn't disappoint. It could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.7 seconds. That was fast for a car of its size, especially for a muscle car with a big V8 engine. On the quarter mile, the car finished in 14.2 seconds at 100 miles per hour. Those numbers made it one of the quickest cars of the era. The W30 package also brought in some additional performance features like front disc brakes, sway bars, and special tires that made it not just fast, but stable and well-controlled on the road. The W30 edition stood as the ultimate version of the 442, and its combination of luxury and power made it a true muscle car icon. Despite only 1,542 units, with automatic transmissions being built, the 1970 Oldsmobile 442W30 remains a legend, offering the perfect balance of speed, power, and refinement. I hope you enjoy this video. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Number 12, 1970 Buick GSX Stage 1. In the early part of the 1970s, muscle cars were still filling the streets, but some of the quickest ones barely got noticed. One of those was the 1970 Buick GS 455 Stage 1. Even though it had incredible speed and serious power, it never became a big name. That might be because Buick was not seen as a brand for speed lovers, even though it built a machine that could outrun most of its rivals. Only 3,776 units were made in that model year, and out of those, just 479 were built as GSX versions. That small number made it rare from the start. But even in its regular form, the GS 455 Stage 1 had a lot going on under the hood. Buick upgraded the engine with bigger valves, stronger valve springs, a hotter camshaft, and a tuned carburetor. They also added a high-capacity oil pump, improved cooling, and changed the ignition setup for better spark timing. There were 3 different ways to shift gears: a 3-speed manual, a 4-speed manual with an optional Hurst shifter, and a specially tuned 3-speed automatic that delivered faster shifts. No matter which transmission you picked, the car was ready to move fast. Test results showed just how quick this muscle car was. In one setup, it ran the quarter mile in 13.38 seconds, reaching 105.5 miles per hour at the finish. Even with a regular setup, it still ran the quarter mile in 13.8 seconds at around 101 miles per hour. The 0 to 60 miles per hour time came in at 6.5 seconds, which was impressive for a car that weighed almost 2 tons. It was not just about speed either. The GS 455 had features like power steering, a quiet ride, and even bucket seats with extra gauges if you wanted them. That made it good for everyday driving, not just racing. People often forget how fast this car really was. In the world of 70s muscle, the Buick GS 455 Stage 1 quietly proved it belonged at the very top. Number 11, 1970 Chevrolet Camaro Z28. In 1970, a new breed of American muscle car emerged that captured the hearts of car enthusiasts and challenged European sports cars with its raw power and unique styling. The Camaro Z28, introduced by Chevrolet, became a symbol of this power. With its distinct, aggressive design, the Z28 didn't just look fast, it was fast. Equipped with a potent 350 cubic inch V8 engine, the car offered incredible performance on both the street and the track. What set the Camaro Z28 apart was not just its engine, but its handling and design. While most American muscle cars at the time were known for their straight-line speed, the Z28 was built for a more refined driving experience. The redesigned steering and suspension setup gave it superior road manners, making it easier to control even at higher speeds. Its handling was among the best Detroit had ever produced, offering predictable transitions as the car entered and exited curves. But the real magic was under the hood. The Z28 was equipped with a 4-barrel carburetor and an engine that was designed for both performance and endurance. The car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 6.6 seconds, a remarkable feat for a car of its time. The quarter-mile time was also impressive, coming in at 14.2 seconds, with a speed of 100 miles per hour. These figures put the Camaro Z28 in a league of its own, as it outperformed many of its rivals on the muscle car scene. Despite its strength, the Z28 was designed to be more refined and manageable than earlier models. Chevrolet made improvements to the suspension system to reduce noise and improve ride quality. However, this refinement did not compromise its performance. Even with the automatic transmission, the car's axle ratio made it incredibly responsive, maintaining its speed without sacrificing comfort or drivability. The car's acceleration was smooth, though the Z28's high-revving engine did take a little time to reach its full potential. In the end, the Camaro Z28 became one of the fastest muscle cars of the 1970s, delivering both in terms of speed and handling. With its remarkable acceleration times and superb design, it remains an icon in the world of American muscle cars. Number 10, 1970, Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. When you think of the fastest muscle car of the 1970s, the 1970 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am immediately stands out. This car wasn't just fast, it was a powerhouse. With its standard 345 horsepower Ram Air, 400 cubic inch V8 engine, it could easily clock low 14-second times at the drag strip. But let's take it a step further. Just 88 out of the 3,196 Trans Ams built that year came with the optional Ram Air 4 engine, which bumped the power up to 370 horsepower. This extra power didn't just make the car faster, it gave it a true muscle car identity. The engine featured better heads, bigger ports, swirl-polished valves, and an aluminum intake manifold, all contributing to its thrilling performance. There was also a Ram Air V engine available, but it was incredibly rare. This over-the-counter engine offered solid lifters and tunnel port heads that helped it deliver a massive 500 horsepower, pushing the car's speed potential even further. The speed wasn't just about raw power. The Trans Am was designed for handling as well. It featured stiffened springs, heavy-duty front and rear sway bars, and special tires mounted on Kelsey Hayes Rally 2 wheels. These components helped the Trans Am stay stable and maintain control, especially when pushing it to its limits. The car's steering was precise, with a 12.1-to-1 variable ratio power steering system that made it feel incredibly responsive, especially in high-speed situations. One of the most impressive aspects of this car's design was its aerodynamics. With a unique front air dam, fender air extractors, and a rear spoiler, the Trans Am created downforce, making it feel like it was glued to the road at high speeds. This attention to detail helped the car achieve impressive performance numbers. From 0 to 60 miles per hour, the Trans Am could sprint in just 5.6 seconds, and it could finish a quarter mile in 13.9 seconds at 102 miles per hour. In its time, the 1970 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am was a true embodiment of American muscle, a car that could dominate both on the drag strip and on the open road. Number 9, 1970, Ford Torino Cobra. If you're looking for a muscle car that combines raw power with surprising comfort, the 1970 Ford Torino Cobra is hard to beat. With its longer and larger design, it might not look like your typical muscle car, but when you take it out on the road, it's pure performance. Ford expanded its size by 1 inch on the wheelbase and 5 inches in length, making it one of the largest cars in its segment. Yet it didn't lose the aggressive style of a true muscle car. Its reshaped, aerodynamically inspired sheet metal and increased tread width meant more space for a bigger, more powerful engine. Under the hood, the Ford Torino Cobra replaced its previous engine with a new, more powerful 429 cubic inch V8. This engine was not the semi-HEMI Boss 429, but it was still an impressive piece of engineering. Featuring thin-wall construction and canted valve heads, the engine came with a standard 360 horsepower version, but the real performance was in the 2 higher output variants. The Cobra version boasted 370 horsepower, with a higher compression ratio and a high-lift camshaft. With the optional shaker scoop, it was even more intimidating. But it didn't stop there. The drag pack option pushed it even further, boosting the car's power to 375 horsepower, adding extra components like forged aluminum pistons and a 4-bolt main. Despite its larger size, the Torino Cobra managed to perform exceptionally well on the road. The car's rear-heavy design helped it off the line, and its 0 to 60 miles per hour sprint took just 6 seconds. This made it competitive in a world of muscle cars that were built for speed. The car could also finish a quarter mile in just 13.9 seconds, reaching speeds of 107 miles per hour. Handling was surprisingly composed for a car of its size, and its quiet operation, especially on models without solid lifters, meant you could drive in comfort without sacrificing performance. With its balance of power, size, and comfort, the 1970 Ford Torino Cobra was one of the fastest muscle cars of the era, an ideal mix of brawn and smooth driving. Number 8, 1970, Mercury Cyclone Spoiler, 429 CJ. Most people think of Ford when they talk about fast American cars from the 1970s. Names like Mustang and Torino come up all the time. But what they forget is that Mercury, which was part of the same company, had its own muscle car that could easily keep up. It was called the 1970 Mercury Cyclone Spoiler, and it had the power to be a legend, even though it never became one. The Cyclone Spoiler was not just another version of a Ford model. It had a unique shape with smooth curves and a long body that made it stand out. Built from the Cyclone GT platform, the spoiler was packed with performance parts. It even came better equipped than the Torino Cobra, which was considered one of the top performers from Ford. Under the hood, it had a 429 cubic inch V8 engine with 370 horsepower. This same engine was optional on the Torino, but Mercury gave it to every spoiler as standard. The base version came with a 4-speed manual transmission and a rear axle ratio of 3.50 to 1, designed for fast acceleration and strong performance. For people who wanted even more muscle, there was the drag pack. That upgrade boosted power to 375 horsepower by adding stronger internal parts. Buyers could also choose between 2 stronger rear axle setups, a 3.91 to 1 or a 4.30 to 1 ratio with a Detroit locker, helping the tires grip better under hard acceleration. A 3-speed automatic was also available if shifting gears was not your thing. When it came to real speed, the Cyclone Spoiler did not disappoint. It went from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.2 seconds and finished the quarter mile in 14.1 seconds, hitting 100 miles per hour. For a big car, that was fast. It had wide tires, a front spoiler, a rear wing, and a working hood scoop. Inside, the driver got real gauges and no warning lights. It measured 209.9 inches long and weighed more than the Torino by about 100 pounds. Still, it moved like a rocket. Number 7, 1971, Ford Mustang Boss 351. If you're looking for a muscle car that really knows how to move, the 1971 Ford Mustang Boss 351 is a serious contender for the title of the fastest muscle car of the 70s. This beast was built to go fast, and it lived up to that promise with impressive performance numbers. With its 351 cubic inch high-output engine, the Boss 351 produced an impressive 330 horsepower at 5,400 revolutions per minute. The engine was a monster with a lot of power packed into a relatively small package, which helped the car achieve a 0 to 60 miles per hour time of just 5.8 seconds. When you take it down the quarter-mile strip, the Mustang doesn't hold back. It could blast through the quarter mile in 14.1 seconds at 100 miles per hour. And with a bit of fine-tuning and wide-open throttle shifts, it could do it even quicker, dropping to 13.9 seconds at just over 101 miles per hour. These performance numbers were more than enough to keep up with the big block competitors of the time, making it a true street machine. The Boss 351 was also equipped with an impressive Autolite carburetor that fed plenty of fuel and air into the engine, allowing it to perform at its best. Despite its racing pedigree, the Mustang wasn't all about power. It had a refined suspension and steering setup that made it surprisingly comfortable for a muscle car. Handling was surprisingly agile for its size, and while it wasn't as light on its feet as some European GTs, it was still fun to drive. The handling, combined with the massive power under the hood, made the Mustang Boss 351 a true performance car, though visibility from the driver's seat left a bit to be desired. Overall, the Boss 351's blend of raw power and performance made it one of the fastest muscle cars of the 70s, with a top speed of 117 miles per hour. It was a car built for the fast lane. Number 6, 1970 Plymouth HEMI Cuda. The Plymouth Barracuda was already a strong contender in the muscle car world, but when you add the HEMI engine, it becomes a completely different beast. The 1970 Plymouth HEMI Cuda took muscle car performance to a new level with its aggressive styling and extreme power. It was fitted with a massive 4-barrel carburetor setup that helped it push out an impressive 425 horsepower from its 426 cubic inch engine. Plymouth knew exactly what they were doing when they designed the suspension for the HEMI Cuda. They equipped it with heavy-duty components, including rear leaf springs specifically designed to handle the car's incredible acceleration. While the ride was firm, the rear suspension was set up to minimize wheel hop, a common issue for powerful muscle cars. It wasn't unusual to see the rear tires spinning up in smoke if you weren't careful with the throttle. With its HEMI engine, the Cuda could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.6 seconds, putting it among the quickest cars of its era. That's fast enough to put most other muscle cars in the dust right off the line. But the HEMI Cuda wasn't just fast in a straight line. It also performed well on the quarter-mile strip, finishing in 13.4 seconds at a speed of 105 miles per hour. This made it one of the most capable cars of the 70s when it came to raw, no-nonsense acceleration. Inside, the HEMI Cuda offered a straightforward yet sporty experience with a full set of gauges and an optional pistol grip shifter for those who wanted to feel the power in their hands. The only downside? It could be tricky to handle, as the car's front end could feel a bit nose-heavy. But for those who knew how to manage it, the 1970 HEMI Cuda was an absolute force on the road. Number 5, 1971 Plymouth GTX 446 barrel. Not every fast car from the 1970s made it into the spotlight. While names like Chevel and Mustang stayed popular, the 1971 Plymouth GTX 440+6 quietly delivered incredible speed and power without much fame. It was one of the last muscle cars to stay fast, even when new rules were forcing others to slow down. This version of the GTX was more than just a quick car. It had style too. Built on the mid-size Chrysler platform, it used the curvy new fuselage body style that gave it a bold, wide look. Even though the wheelbase was trimmed by 1 inch, the rear track was stretched by 3 inches. That change helped the car feel more planted on the road. Inside, new bucket seats and dash controls gave drivers better comfort and visibility. Most muscle cars from this year had to drop their horsepower numbers, but not this one. The standard engine was a 440 cubic inch V8 with a 4-barrel carburetor, pushing out 370 horsepower. That was only slightly less than earlier models. The 440+6 versions were even stronger, using 3 2-barrel carburetors to make 385 horsepower. The real beast, though, was the 426 cubic inch HEMI, which held firm at 425 horsepower. The GTX could be ordered with a 4-speed manual or a 3-speed automatic, and both versions were built for serious speed. The 440+6 models could shoot from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.7 seconds and finish the quarter mile in 13.7 seconds at 102 miles per hour. That was faster than many cars that got way more attention. It did gain about 170 pounds, and some drivers said the ride was a little stiff, but it made up for that with raw power and cool features, like the air grabber hood scoop, which helped feed more air into the engine. The axle ratios went up to 4 points, 10 to 1, giving it strong takeoff ability. The GTX bowed out after this year. It ended strong, but like many fast cars of the 70s, it faded quietly. Number 4, 1971 Dodge Charger RT 426 HEMI. The 1971 Dodge Charger RT, with its bold look and incredible power, stands out as one of the fastest muscle cars of the 70s. This car was designed for performance, and it didn't disappoint. With a 426 cubic inch HEMI engine, this beast churned out 425 horsepower. It wasn't just about power, though. The Charger RT featured a heavy-duty suspension, including extra-duty shock absorbers, torsion bars, and sway bars, all engineered for maximum stability at high speeds. The HEMI engine was an option for the Charger RT, and for an extra $746.50, it could be added, providing an explosive ride. With a compression ratio of 10.2:1 and dual 4-barrel carburetors, the HEMI made sure that the Charger RT could handle any challenge, whether on the street or the track. The car's raw speed was evident when it accelerated from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.7 seconds, a remarkable feat for any muscle car of that era. When it came to the quarter mile, the Charger RT didn't hold back either. It completed the drag strip in 13.7 seconds at a speed of 104 miles per hour, a time that made it one of the fastest muscle cars of the time. The car was equipped with a durable Dana 60 differential and available rear gear ratios, ranging from 3.23 to 4.10, allowing drivers to pick the setup that best suited their needs. Inside, the Charger RT featured a sportier feel with a new dashboard, high-back bucket seats, and a tachometer. The Ram Charger functional hood scoop came as standard with the HEMI engine, adding both style and function. The Charger RT was truly built for speed, and it earned its place among the fastest muscle cars of the 70s. Number 3, 1970, Pontiac GTO Judge. The 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge stands out as one of the fastest muscle cars of the 70s, with performance that matched its bold and aggressive styling. With its signature graphics and wild rear wing, the Judge wasn't just about looks, it was built for speed. Under the hood, the GTO Judge came with the powerful 400 cubic inch V8 engine, with the option of the Ram Air 4, offering up to 370 horsepower. This engine was paired with functional hood scoops to provide the maximum airflow for performance, and it could hit 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 6 seconds. The GTO Judge wasn't just about acceleration either. With a quarter-mile time of 14.5 seconds at 98 miles per hour, it was a serious contender on the drag strip. The car's handling was sharpened for better performance, thanks to a rear sway bar, beefier front sway bar, softer springs, and revised shock valving. Variable ratio power steering was also introduced, improving the car's response for a smoother drive at higher speeds. Visually, the GTO Judge made a bold statement with its unique look, including the Judge decals, multicolored stripes, and a massive 60-inch rear wing. The car's design was built for those who loved being noticed, but it also packed real muscle under the hood. Transmission choices included a 3-speed manual as standard, with a 4-speed or automatic transmission available, and the 4-speed models even had a Hurst T-handle shifter. The Judge was rare, with only a few hardtops and even fewer ragtop models produced. While its production was short-lived, with only a handful of cars made, it left an unforgettable legacy as one of the most powerful and fastest muscle cars of the 70s. Its combination of power, speed, and daring design made it a standout in the golden age of muscle cars. Number 2, 1971, Dodge Super Bee 446 Pack. Some of the quickest muscle cars from the 1970s never got the praise they deserved, and the 1971 Dodge Super Bee 446 Pack is a perfect example. It was a true performance machine built with one goal: go fast. But somehow it never got the spotlight like a few of its more popular cousins. This version of the Super Bee was fitted with a 440 cubic inch V8 engine that used a trio of 2-barrel carburetors, a setup known as the 6-pack. This package gave the car more power and quicker throttle response compared to the basic 4-barrel version. Dodge gave it a flat black hood made from lighter metal and held down by pins, not hinges. That might seem like a small thing, but for drivers looking for speed, every little bit helped. The car was no joke when it came to numbers. The Super Bee could blast from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.9 seconds. That kind of launch was impressive for a big-body car in the early 70s. It could also run the quarter mile in just over 14 seconds, making it one of the fastest cars you could buy without jumping into the expensive high-end models. Beyond the engine and numbers, the Super Bee had a bold, no-nonsense look. It had a wide stance, sharp edges, and styling that matched its raw performance. Still, it somehow stayed in the shadows, while other cars like the Charger or Challenger got more attention. It could have been the timing. By 1971, the golden age of muscle cars was starting to fade. Insurance costs were rising, gas prices were changing, and automakers were being pushed to cut back on power. But even with all that, the Super Bee delivered everything a true muscle car fan wanted. It came and went in a flash, but for those who drove it, the Dodge Super Bee was unforgettable. It may not be a household name, but it had the speed to stand tall with the very best. Number 1, 1971, Plymouth Roadrunner, 426 HEMI. The 1971 Plymouth Roadrunner 426 HEMI is a muscle car that perfectly blends raw power with showy design. This car was built to perform, and it didn't disappoint. Equipped with the legendary 426 cubic inch HEMI 5.8 engine, this Roadrunner was rated at an impressive 425 horsepower, though in reality its output exceeded 500 horsepower. That immense power allowed it to go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.5 seconds. It also conquered the quarter mile in a blistering 13.6 seconds at a speed of 105.4 miles per hour. While Plymouth introduced the Roadrunner as a stripped-down, performance-focused model in 1968, by 1971, the car had grown into something larger and more refined. The redesigned 1971 model was a bit bulkier, with an overall width increase of 3 inches and a curb weight that went up by about 170 pounds. Despite the added weight, the Roadrunner still carried its muscle car spirit, with the HEMI engine being the top performance option. It was a hefty upgrade that added around 30% to the base price. But for those who craved performance, it was worth every penny. The 1971 Roadrunner's design included sporty features like a color-keyed elastomeric front bumper, rear spoiler, and backlight louvers, which gave it a bold presence on the road. Inside, the car featured stylish gauges that were all the rage at the time. Unfortunately, as the 70s progressed, insurance premiums rose, and demand for performance cars dwindled. The Roadrunner's sales dropped significantly, and by 1976, it was reduced to a less thrilling version of its former self. Still, the Plymouth Roadrunner 426 HEMI remains one of the fastest and most iconic muscle cars of the 1970s, capturing the essence of American performance. That wraps up our look at some of the fastest muscle cars of the 1970s and their amazing quarter-mile times. These cars were true legends of speed and power. What do you think? Which one is your favorite? Drop a comment below, and if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe for more car content.